Hello everybody and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home everybody. If you find that you have nobody to talk to about your excitement for the upcoming brand new Silent Night, Deadly Night movie, and when you bring it up to people, they're like, you're looking forward to that Killer Santa movie from the 80s that they're making again, what the fuck is wrong with you? And you're just like, well, I don't know, it could be kind of good. I'd like to talk to about it with somebody. Well, guys, join me because I'm struggling to find anybody that even knows about this franchise. So please join me because that is what we're going to be doing here today. Because today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3, Better Watch Out, which came out in 1989. The movie follows a resurrected Ricky Caldwell, now a lab experiment gone wrong, as he stalks a young, clairvoyant woman during the Christmas season. So as we jump into the review and discussion for Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 3, Better Watch Out, the longest title ever, we are obviously on the channel covering the entire lovely franchise here leading up to our new one, and I thought it would just be a fun kind of holiday movie experience for all of us here. So, like I said, we're going to be covering all the movies in the franchise, including that one remake, which came out in like 2011, 2012. I might as well. I'll check that one out and talk about it with you lovely people. But overall, I felt like I had a really good time with the first one. Second one was a pretty big mix to negative experience, so I've just been kind of mentally preparing myself trying to get through this franchise because I don't think I've ever heard anybody reference anything from this franchise other than part 1 and part 2. So I'm incredibly interested just to see what my thoughts are, see if maybe one of these movies or a sequence in one of these movies really stands out to me and I could share it with you guys. But I hope you guys join me on this very treacherous journey here. But let's jump into the review section, starting with the positives or just the things that I really enjoyed about this movie. Now, I will say here at ZakIsCinema, I feel like I always try my hardest to really find something that stood out to me. Whether it's in a movie I absolutely despise or just a movie everybody despises, I try my hardest to bring something to my positive section because I hate leaving it blank, to be honest. So this one was difficult. It was right up there with, I think the only other movie I struggled to fill positives with was The Next Karate Kid. So it's giving me that similar vibe and experience. But for this movie, I will say positive wise, I appreciate how this sequel in this now franchise really did try at least to do something different, where they had attempts at new lore, a new kind of paranormal, spiritual, otherworldly edge, where a lot of movies, especially in slasher franchises, just kind of repackage the same meal and tell you to eat it. So I appreciate this one more on a concept, initial premise kind of idea where there was something there they were trying to do differently. Just unfortunately, nothing else worked for me in this movie. So concept level, I'll give them that. I appreciate you at least trying something different and not doing the exact same thing. But yeah, so sorry to say this, but already let's jump into the negative section or just the things that I really hated about this movie. Now, as I was kind of hinting at in my positive section, I appreciate it on a conceptual kind of level here, but at the same time, it is one of my negatives because that concept just stretches this franchise, this initial lore that this franchise has now established. It stretches it way, way too far and takes that simple story from the first one and just completely ruins it. It completely goes way too out there where it's just kind of lost sight of what this franchise was, where it tries to go bigger, but in this case, it does not equal better. It kind of intrigued me a little bit when we were starting off in the movie with this trippy, weird dream sequence. Sure, it kind of felt kind of cheap, kind of made for TV or I guess VHS at the time, but we have our main character of Laura running away from the killer, who is turned out to be Ricky with his brain out in some laboratory experiment where instead of the top of his skull, he has a clear see-through casing onto it, which I don't know why they needed to make it clear. Visually, it looks okay, so But as soon as that started, I'm like, oh my God, did I click on the wrong movie? What is this? And then she's running through this trippy, nightmarish kind of dream sequence, and then all of a sudden stops running away from Ricky because she sees Santa, sits on his lap, and starts literally telling him about all the Barbie dolls that she wants for Christmas. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, I get this is a dream sequence, but my God, who wrote this? This is out there. Why am I watching a slasher movie, also getting introduced to Inception level ideas right now that make no sense for the franchise that I just watched the first two movies? Like, it comes out of left field in the worst way possible. And right after Laura, our main character, wakes up from that initial dream sequence, we kind of get to figure out what exactly is going on. Where she wakes up, she's in this laboratory research center where we find out they're trying to do research with clairvoyant people like Laura and trying to connect their brains in dreams to coma patients, with this coma patient being Ricky. So they're trying to create this telepathic communication with Ricky here and with Laura, and we get scenes of them interacting in dreams. We get scenes of Laura seeing the events of the very first movie kind of play out. So like I said, a big, huge concept that belongs nowhere in a Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. Like, it really felt to me like these writers got some weird rip-off Dream Warriors spec script or rip-off script by the time the movie came out, and just needed to add some killer to it to get funding for it because they wanted to rip off the ideas of Dream Warriors, and that's what it felt. But it makes sense in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. It does not make sense in this franchise whatsoever. It really felt like the movie took its grounded previous two movies, grounded in some way, and, you know, chucked it out the window and forced this supernatural edge, almost like A Nightmare on Elm Street, because that was popular at the time, but like I said, was nowhere to be found in the first two movies. So it just stretches its concept so far that it just breaks beneath it. And the movie never really cares to explain any of it, but really just uses that supernatural and clairvoyant edge that Laura has as a way to write around and create different plot conveniences. So, for example, Ricky just wakes up and murders a Santa that's visiting in the hospital because the Santa went into his room, so he wakes up from his coma, which it's like, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but he's connected, he's a little bit more spiritual, so they can kind of write around it. He then walks around the hospital with his brain out in a tube that everyone can see, and no one stops him or questions him, but then he just starts hitchhiking to Laura because he knows where Laura is because they have some supernatural connection. So it is literally just a way for the writers to get this slasher villain that shouldn't be out of the hospital to get him out of the hospital and not need any directions to Laura. He could just find Laura. We don't question it because of their supernatural dream-like connection. So it is literally a way to just write around any of the things that don't make sense, because if you point them out, they could just be like, well, they're connected, okay? Don't ask questions. And unfortunately, when they introduce this big concept, I'm like, okay, maybe the kills will be a little bit more over the top. Maybe we'll be getting some crazy dream-like scenario kind of kills that blends in with reality, but that is not what the movie does. It essentially just turns into another basic slasher movie after he wakes up, except they have a connection, so they always kind of know where each other are. Ricky's kills are just nothing new here. I get it was made for TV, but they're all cutaways, a couple after the math, but really just some ketchup being squirted on the wall, and they never really bother to set up Ricky as a threat. Sure, from the second one, maybe that suburban neighborhood shootout, maybe you see him as a threat, but after years in a coma, they never reestablish him as being this big scary threat. He really just kind of has everything handed to him, so you never feel any tension or suspense at all through this entire movie. There's no villain here that is carrying this. And even with its high concept idea, the movie had no fucking clue on what to do with it once Ricky gets out of the hospital and just starts walking towards towards Laura like he's Michael Myers and has some sort of connection. They travel, Laura and her brother and new girlfriend travel to their grandmother's house, and we get about half the movie, maybe 60% of the movie, of just waiting for Ricky to show up. Well, Laura and her brother are looking for her grandparents or her grandma, who has obviously just been killed by Ricky. So he doesn't show up till the last like 20 minutes of the movie, even though he's right there, and we're just kind of following around boring ass Laura with her boring ass brother and his new girlfriend. And oh my god, she's playing this blind person where you could totally tell that she is not blind. It almost gets to the fact where it's kind of insulting to blind people, I'd imagine. Even though I praise the initial concept in my positives, it essentially, the dream stuff has nothing to do with the movie. Her clairvoyance edge. Laura doesn't really even know where Ricky is. Half the time he's what I assume is in the neighborhood or at least same zip code, and she never kind of senses him. They never communicate or have these thought-provoking conversations with each other. They do nothing with it. It doesn't make Laura interesting. She doesn't use it. She doesn't use it throughout the rest of the movie. And essentially it just has a way for our characters to know where they're at. So it's like the lamest, poorest execution of a big concept idea like that. And I get that the horror genre is known for having dumb characters, but my god, is Laura and her brother really stupid, because they get to their grandma's house and, you know, all the ovens are on and the stove's running, and they're like, oh, she must have just left. We'll just hang out here. We'll start drinking. We'll wait for grandma. I'll take a bath with my girlfriend. I'll fuck her and, you know, wait for grandma. Laura's just kind of wandering around doing nothing. They look around the neighborhood for like 5 minutes and then just give up on poor granny. They don't even seem to really investigate the household that much. They don't try to go to a neighbor's home and use the phone or use one of their vehicles or anything. We're just trapped in grandma's house waiting for Ricky to show up, even though we know he's already there, but Laura can't even sense him. So it's just like a waiting game till the end of the movie, a waiting game that you're not invested in whatsoever. And I'm sorry to pick on the actress that plays Laura, but like I said, her acting as a blind person is so obviously fake. She almost like translates that stiff kind of blind person acting into her emotional side of acting, where everything just kind of comes off as stiff and not very reactive to things. She has so many scenes of her screaming where you could just tell the director's like, hey, can you open your mouth for a second? And then they just voiced over a scream. So that got pretty tiring and pretty annoying, and just doesn't make me feel anything towards this main character, especially how lackluster her powers are, even though they spent the first 20 minutes really trying to build that up. And I thought it'd at least play into the third act, but it doesn't even play into the third act. She doesn't use it to save anybody. She has a quick little conversation with her dead grandma, and then her grandma's like, you gotta open up, you gotta let people in and use your powers. And I'm like, grandma, that doesn't tell me how to use my powers, but okay, sure, it's a nice message. And she essentially has Ricky in the basement after he just killed her brother, and she then, I guess, finally senses him and makes him fall on a broken pole, and she stabs him and injures him enough for the police to show up, which just again uses nothing of what was just set up, which is so frustrating. But even more frustrating, her brother in the scene previously shot Ricky point blank with a shotgun right in the gut, and he gets up and he's fine and kills the brother. But then Laura uses her magical powers to stab Ricky, and I guess that was enough to take him out. So it just makes no sense. They wasted the concept. The concept is too high for a franchise in a movie like this, and really doesn't do anything new or different once it kind of gets to that second and third act, and basically just turns into a slasher movie with two people who dream. So that's basically it. And I would say overall, this truly might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. As I referenced earlier on, I felt like it was right there with the next Karate Kid, where this movie just had nothing going for it, unfortunately. It stretches the original's concept so far that it doesn't even feel like it belongs in the same universe or should use the same title. There's so many bland characters and even blander story that it truly made those 90 minutes so painful to sit through. But I did it for you guys. So for my rating for this movie, this is easily my lowest tier rating, where it's a movie I would never own, spend money on, rent, steal from a neighbor, or illegally download. Again, I'm going to get this off my Plex server today because I never have a reason to rewatch it, and it's taking up precious memory. So you guys have my thoughts here on Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 3, Better Watch Out. Please let me know your thoughts and feelings on this movie down below. Did you even know it existed? Have you sat through this experience? Maybe you really like it. I'd love to hear a different side of things and get your thoughts and feelings on this below here. Or does my recap and discussion kind of intrigue you to go check it out? I don't know. Let me know here, but let me know your excitement for the new movie coming out, and if hopefully some of these other sequels at least get a little bit better than this, because it is looking grim here, people. But that's about it. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching my videos. It means so much to me, so thank you again. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.